Let's begin with the foundations. Welcome to another lecture, where we examine culture with the patience of a seminar and, if we are lucky, the clarity of a well-written footnote. Today our subject is Anthony Stewart Head, the English actor and singer whose career traversed stage, television, film, radio, and games. I am Professor Alexei, and with me is Priyanka, whose questions you will observe often improve the lecture more than my answers do.
Hi everyone. I'm really looking forward to this. Anthony Stewart Head feels like someone we all know from somewhere, even if that somewhere is different for each of us.
To frame our discussion, it's important to understand the basic definition. Anthony Stewart Head, born in Camden Town, London, in February 1954, was an English actor and singer, active for nearly 5 decades. We observe a portfolio spanning West End musicals such as Godspell in 1978 and Chess in 1989, recurring turns as Frank N. Furter in The Rocky Horror Show across 1990, 1991, 1995, 2000, and a 2006 tribute, and parallel visibility on television, where his roles ranged from Rupert Giles in Buffy the Vampire Slayer to Uther Pendragon in Merlin and Rupert Mannion in Ted Lasso. Fundamentally, his distinctive baritone voice underpinned extensive radio, audiobook, narration, and game work, making vocal presence not secondary but constitutive of the whole.
Maybe the best place to begin is by asking a simple question. When you say multi-format, do we mean he actually built separate careers that talk to each other? Or one career that just happens to spread across platforms?
In this context, we can infer an integrated career architecture. His radio comedy, for example, Bleak Expectations from 2007 to 2012, demanded precise vocal agility that also served narration in Doctor Who Confidential and animated specials such as The Infinite Quest. Similarly, his musical theater grounding enabled television's Once More, with Feeling on Buffy in 2001, which directly influenced his film casting in Repo, the genetic opera. So, not separate silos, but mutually reinforcing capabilities. In simpler terms, the same voice and stagecraft travel well. As we continue, why does this matter? Well, you see, his career is almost a case study in navigating late 20th century into early streaming era media. From a serialized ad campaign that made him a household name, to American genre television in the 1990s, to BBC fantasy in the 2000s, to a global streaming comedy in the 2020s. The stakes are methodological. Understanding his path clarifies how actors convert one breakthrough into durable multi-medium relevance, despite the well-known unpredictability of moving from stage to screen to voice.
I think the next thing we should talk about is the basics, like where he came from and how early those choices showed up.
Let's start with the history. Born in February 1954 to a documentary filmmaker father, Seafield Lawrence Stewart Murray Head, and an actress mother, Helen Shingler, he grew up with performance as a household norm. Educated at Sunbury Grammar School and trained at Lambda, he entered professional theater with Godspell in 1978, the same year he made his television debut in Enemy at the Door. Early 1980s studio work included backing vocals for Red Box and recording on Two Way's 1983 EP, Face in the Window. The comedy gene surfaced in a 1981 Not the 9 O'Clock News sketch, and then came the catalytic moment. From 1987 to 1993, he co-anchored the Nescafé Gold Blend television adverts in the United Kingdom, opposite Sharon Maughan. A serialized, flirtatious narrative, effectively a miniature romantic drama delivered between programs. In North America, 1990 to 1997, the identical concept ran under the Taster's Choice brand. This recast him from stage familiar to national face, with immediate implications for casting directors. Alongside this, he played Freddie Trumper in Chess in 1989, an interesting sibling echo, given that his brother Murray originated the role in 1986. And across the 1990s, he repeatedly embodied Frank N. Furter, even releasing Sweet Transvestite as a single in 1991.
Isn't it interesting how an advert can function like a TV series? It makes me wonder how that visibility translated to, the later iconic stuff.
Speaking of iconic, in 1996 he auditioned for the Eighth Doctor, did not receive the role, and in 1997 relocated for Buffy the Vampire Slayer as Rupert Giles, remaining central through 2003, with strategic guest returns after exiting the regular cast in Season 6. The 2001 musical episode displayed his theater musculature. Post-Buffy, he balanced Man-Child in 2002 and high-profile comedy in Little Britain from 2003 to 2005. Narration and on-screen Doctor Who continued, notably Mr. Finch in the 2006 episode School Reunion, plus audiobook and animated ventures. From 2008 to 2012, he anchored BBC Fantasy as King Uther Pendragon in Merlin. On film, we observe roles in Persuasion in 2007, Ghost Rider, Spirit of Vengeance in 2011, The Iron Lady in 2011, Percy Jackson's Sea of Monsters in 2013, and a Best Supporting Actor award in 2016 at the Prague Independent Film Festival for Despite the Falling Snow. Radio audiences heard him as Mr. Gently Benevolent and Jeremy Surquill in Bleak Expectations across 5 series, and as Hercules Shipwright in Cabin Pressure in its later seasons and finale. Later credits include The Archers in 2018, Motherland in 2019, Ted Lasso from 2020 to 2023, with an Ensemble Screen Actors Guild nomination for Season 3. Bridgerton in 2022, a Giles return in the 2023 Audible Slayers, and the streaming feature Upgraded in 2024.
Can we say something about his personal life, briefly, to complete the picture?
Yes. In fact, from 1982, he was with Sarah Fisher, an animal welfare advocate. They did not legally marry, but described themselves as married in all but name. They had 2 daughters, Emily and Daisy, both actors. Fisher died in December 2025. Anthony Stewart Head died in June 2026 from complications of pneumonia, age 72. The response was immediate and broad, from Buffy colleagues such as Sarah Michelle Gellar and David Boreanaz to Ted Lasso's Brett Goldstein. The New York Times described him as a mainstay of influential television shows. The term, I think, is apt. Before we get to the complexities, a brief personal note. I first encountered him as Giles, ironically while designing a syllabus. There was something academically familiar in his calibration of authority and generosity, a kind of supervisory ideal. He could be stern without cruelty, witty without showiness. It's crucial to understand that such tonal balance is hard, and he made it look procedural.
So yeah, moving on. I think the next thing we should talk about is the 3 big questions.
Let's proceed to the next point. Question 1, historical. What was the impact of the Nescafé Gold Blend campaign on his trajectory? Question 2, counterfactual. What if he had been cast as the Eighth Doctor in 1996? Question 3, open. How does his multifaceted legacy shape the strategies of actors working today? On to our next point. Question 1. The Gold Blend adverts were essentially microdramas that turned advertising spots into episodic television. The public waited to see whether two neighbors would finally consummate a coffee-fueled romance. Visibility at that scale reframed him as a bankable face. This did not mechanically cause later roles, but it lowered friction in the casting pipeline. He moved from stage and bit TV to major television parts with far greater velocity. The North American Taster's Choice variant extended the halo across markets, which matters for transatlantic projects downstream.
I'm curious about how the public actually received it. Were people amused or genuinely invested? Did it feel like a sitcom between shows?
We observed both. The campaign became a pop culture touchstone, and the serialized structure encouraged what we might call water cooler discourse. Cliffhanger endings manufactured narrative scarcity. Consequently, he did not merely promote coffee, he accrued character capital. Casting directors, always risk managers, could now infer audience recognition and goodwill. This then eased the move toward roles where gravitas and charm were prerequisites, including the runway toward Giles a few years later. Let's shift focus to question 2, the counterfactual. What if Anthony Stewart Head had been cast as the Eighth Doctor in 1996? The role went to Paul McGann, but suppose otherwise. Theoretically, his brand would have pivoted toward leading science fiction, at least for the immediate cycle. This might have precluded, or at least complicated, his availability for Buffy in 1997, altering the international visibility that series produced. We would likely have seen deeper integration into the Doctor Who ecosystem earlier, with potential typecasting as urbane eccentricity rather than the moral anchor archetype he refined as Giles.
What if we thought about it like this? After Doctor Who, would his career have narrowed into sci-fi? Or could he still have done, say, Little Britain, Merlin, and those radio comedies?
To elaborate, skills transfer would remain intact. His baritone and comic timing do not vanish if you hand him a TARDIS. However, scheduling, brand expectations, and the gravitational pull of a franchise lead are non-trivial. He might not have been the 2006 villain Mr. Finch, because leads rarely circle back so quickly as guests. The unmade Buffy spin-off Ripper, mooted in 2007, is another variable. If he were the Doctor a decade earlier, the appetite for Giles-centric material may have shifted. In reality, the near miss yielded a broader mosaic. He did Death Comes to Time in 2001, narrated Project Who, voiced Balthazar in The Infinite Quest, and so on. A long relationship without a single defining lock-in. Speaking of mosaic, question 3, legacy and influence. First, he models portfolio thinking. He sustained parallel presences in UK and US markets, living in the United States during Buffy, while maintaining family life in Britain. Second, he demonstrates the compounding value of voice. Cabin Pressure's Hercules Shipwright and Bleak Expectations' dual roles refined oral character work that translated to narration and games, such as Ponsonby in Destroy All Humans 2, and roles for the Nintendo Wii. Third, he shows how a single standout moment can bridge mediums. Once More with Feeling led directly to Repo, the genetic opera, bypassing traditional audition channels by virtue of demonstrated capacity.
Can we maybe now look at the future? Like, for younger actors building similar careers, what should they prioritize? And also, does voice work actually extend career longevity, or is that just a nice story we tell ourselves?
Arguably, 3 priorities emerge. 1. Cultivate a distinctive vocal signature and technical control, because audio drama, animation, and games offer durable opportunities less exposed to on-camera typecasting. 2. Accept cross-genre oscillation. Head moved from sketch comedy in Little Britain to regal intensity in Merlin to sleek antagonism in Ted Lasso, with credibility across each. 3. Embrace transmedia continuity. Returning as Giles in the 2023 Audible Slayers illustrates how characters can migrate formats while retaining audience attachment. As for longevity, the hypothesis is promising but under-researched. We would benefit from longitudinal studies correlating voice work to career duration across cohorts, controlling for fame spikes, streaming volatility, and health. In short, more data, fewer anecdotes.
Maybe it's just me, but I find his balance of mainstream and cult really striking. Like Bridgerton and Upgraded on the one hand, and Bleak Expectations or Repo on the other. It suggests you can be both visible and, a little mischievous.
Clearly, there is a lesson in risk distribution. Mainstream projects maintain recognizability, while cult and audio works sustain craft, and if you will, joy. And not incidentally, awards like Best Supporting Actor at the Prague Independent Film Festival arrive from precisely those independent spaces. This then completes our present analysis of the big questions. To summarize, Anthony Stewart Head was a versatile English actor and singer, born in 1954 and died in 2026, whose career spanned stage, television, film, radio, and games, supported by a distinctive baritone and a rare ability to anchor both mentorship and menace. We examined 3 questions: how the Nescafe Gold Blend campaign accelerated his trajectory, how a Doctor Who casting counterfactual might have reshaped it, and how his portfolio legacy guides actors navigating a multimedia landscape.
So, I guess that kind of sums it up. For further study, I'd encourage listeners to track how audio dramas, games, and streaming features are changing an actor's toolkit, and maybe pay attention to voice the way he did.
In conclusion, thank you for listening to another lecture. We wish you well in your studies, your coffee choices, and your cross-platform experiments.